political independence. He has voted literally every single time with President Trump. And President Trump is not going to be in office that much longer. I mean, the polls cannot be that far off. And you're going to have a house where he's going to have very few friends and a history that's not very reputable. The mistake vote, beyond the mistake vote, almost every single vote has been something that most people in Western New York would not be proud of or agree with. So I think that Chris has shown that he does not have the best judgment. He has shown that he's someone who has moved so far to the right, well beyond what we're used to in traditional politics. And I think that's going to haunt him for however long he's in politics going forward. I think that I also shown that I fought against Chris Collins. He's going to jail today. And we forget that wasn't easy. When I first said I'm going to run against Chris Collins, no one thought I had a chance. They said, don't do it. You're wasting your time. But I read the ethics briefs or the ethics complaints against Chris Collins. I talked to local residents who helped write those briefs or helped instigate those investigations well before his indictment. And I said, I think this is the right thing to do. Someone needs to stand up to this guy. So I have a history of not only doing what's right, but taking difficult positions that are right for our region. Beyond that, listen, my family, we were farmers in Niagara County. Beyond that, we were immigrants that came here for 7 generations. I have family across the region. I'm someone who knows NY27. I am far more like the people of NY27 than any of the recent leadership. Any of them. Lee, Collins, Reynolds, any of them. And I think you can see that in the grassroots support I have. Like when I get out there, Republican or Democrat, so many people have voted for me. If you look at the numbers in NY27, county by county, I should be getting blown out by 30 percentage points. Like they used to get blown out, Democratic candidates. But I've put the time in and people know me. And Democrats and independents and conservatives even have crossed over to vote for me twice. So for those reasons, I think I'm a unique candidate for this time. And I've also stood up to President Trump. And I think it's important to say that. President Trump represents an anomaly. He is someone who is hurting our country. And this is not a time where we can look at it and say, well, there's good points on both sides. No, he has represented some of the worst leadership. And President Biden's going to win. And I have to emphasize that President Biden, when he came here, he said to the people of Western New York, Nate's bright. Nate knows international affairs. Nate's someone you can trust. And I think that's going to help me when I go to Washington.
So do you have specific thoughts on why you did so well? I mean, much better than a lot of the experts thought. Specifically, I mean, have you analyzed that and figured out where you got votes that people didn't expect you to get them?
I think I relate to the people here. I mean, I grew up, my story is a story that's not unlike a lot of the people here. I grew up one of 7. My father was in the building trades. I know what it's like to pay a mortgage. I know what it's like to struggle. I started off at community college. I worked my way up to law school and to become a Fulbright scholar. I think that message is powerful, but also the fact that I can look at them and say, look, you may not be the same party as me, and I'm not like the people in Washington, but I will make sure that when I go there, I'll fight for the things that affect you, like healthcare, like Social Security. The biggest thing is I think I relate. And I think I relate in a way that the Democratic Party used to relate to a lot of these people, the way that maybe Robert Kennedy used to relate to a lot of these people, and the way the Democratic Party has moved away from. And I think that my background and also the fact that I understand and have empathy for a lot of the same issues or have gone through a lot of the same issues they're going through, I think that's what relates and makes people want to cross over and vote for me. And also, I got to emphasize, people believe in me because when so few people were willing to stand up to number 1, Trump, and number 2, Collins, I was. And I think people remember that, and they're with me because of it.
Hey Nate, this is Tom Wiley. I'm the new guy here, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Question for you. So let's assume you win this and we go into that. There's going to be a lot of Republicans that have towed the Trump line that are going to still be in office, and there's going to be, playing out the scenario where Biden wins, there's going to be be a lot of work to be done to rebuild some of those connections and build a functional federal government. How do you see your position, and how do you see the dynamics of what you're going to be walking into? How would you handle that? Because it's going to be, whether he wins or loses, it's going to be an interesting scenario, right?
It is. I have to say, I like your flag. I gotta mention that. I have the same flag in my house. Well, listen, Biden says he's a bridge builder. I think I can be a bridge builder too. I think that the Democratic Party, in a lot of ways, has let down a lot of people for a long time. It's not just the GOP. I think there's been the reason why Trump was successful 4 years ago is because he talked about trade deals that weren't good for America. He was right. He talked about the forgotten American. He was right. Problem is, he's done nothing. He had control of the House, the Congress, the Senate, the executive branch, and even the courts. And what he did is he passed a tax cut that gave 85% of the benefits to 1% of the people. And so, even though his talking points were largely right, his plan and execution was wrong. And I think the Democratic Party has to realize they have to remember working people and the struggles of working people first. And I think I can be a bridge between that element of the Democratic Party and the more corporate element of the Democratic Party that's forgotten that we should have a bubble up economy rather than a trickle down economy. I think to the point regarding Trump voters, I think you're going to see a lot of people, including Chris Jacobs, who's already moving away from Trump or trying to. He voted with Trump on everything, but in his advertising, he must see the same polls we see because he's not mentioning Trump anymore like he used to. Like 2 months ago, he had a billboard up with Trump's face. You're going to see when Trump loses, and he's going to lose in a big way, you're going to see a lot of Republicans move away from Trump and pretend they were never part of that. Or pretend that maybe they were the ones who opposed him on this or this thing, and it would have been far worse had they not been there. So Trumpism will be with us for a while because it obviously has a pull for a lot of people, but I think there's a way to heal that, and it will take a lot of work, and the way you heal that is you address the concerns that he triggered. And the concerns, to a large part, are economic. And if you look at Western New York, according to the Wall Street Journal, Rochester and Buffalo, this is the worst job market in the country. Not in the region, in the country. And I see it every single day. And if we figure out ways, bipartisan ways, to start to address some of the issues of working class people, Trump will fade from our history soon.
Nate, besides being an anti-Trump candidate, which is no small thing, what is it that voters who you meet at town halls and campaign events, what are they most concerned about? Is it healthcare, or what issues are resonating with the voters in the 27th district?
Healthcare and Social Security. I mean, we have an older population here who's worried about Social Security. Trump's budget, I don't know how you can spin it, but Trump's budget is going to cut Social Security. He's ballooned the deficit massively for that tax cut that helps people like Chris Jacobs. Let's be honest about it. It doesn't help my family. And they know that. People instinctually know that Social Security is in trouble. And they also know that almost every family I meet with has health care issues. And I think we've convinced ourselves through a lot of propaganda that we can't solve this issue. But we have you guys are very bright people. We have the most expensive healthcare system in the entire world and some of the worst results, as you can see from this COVID crisis. And, I spent a lot of time in Asia, right? I spent almost 20 years of my life in China and South Korea. And I know the things they're doing that we're not doing. And you can say they're faking the numbers all you want, but they're not. Taiwan has 7 deaths. Erie County has almost 700 deaths. So if this started in China, Taiwan has millions of interactions with mainland China. They have 7 deaths. South Korea, where my wife is from, it's a completely different situation. They have healthcare for every single member of their society. This is a country we spend trillions defending, but they're able to figure out a way to solve healthcare for their people, or at least a better way than we are, and we're not. So I think America is a country it's a problem-solving country. It's a country that had a lot of moxie and a lot of nothing was impossible in America. That's what America is. And I think we have to start solving the healthcare issue and taking it seriously. We cannot continue to be the only country in the developed world that does not have health care for every single one of its citizens. So those are the two biggest concerns, health care and Social Security.
Nate, you talked about Chris Jacobs voting the party line, the Trump line. How would your votes differ from the Democratic leadership?
I would vote, listen, if there's something, I don't care if, even if President Trump proposed it, if it's something that's going to help the people of NY27, I will vote for it. I will look at it objectively. I think you guys know, even people who've been critical of me in the past, they realize that I'm someone who's going to vote based on my conscience and based on what I've listened to and heard from the people that I represent. And I will vote for what's best for the region. Not for what's best for me personally or my political career, but what's best for the region. I think there's some things that, like, very bipartisan things that he voted against. Like, you can talk whichever way you want about the post office bill. Let's pretend that was a mistake. Well, what about the Great American Outdoors Act? Or what about the Defense Authorization Act? Or, or there's so many that he just voted in a strange manner, and he's only been in office in 3 months. The resolution condemning all forms of anti-Asian sentiment related to COVID-19. Access against the Expanding Access to Sustainable Energy Act, against he sat on the floor and talked about the Uyghur issue in China, very eloquently, in fact, and then he voted against the bill. So, I think that the way he's acted is he showed that he's a true partisan, not just in his votes, but even before the election. And then we have to address what happened in Hamburg. Now, he could try to pretend that wasn't a big deal, but it is a terrifying thing that happened in Hamburg. That is not normal in in American politics. And if he can say he wasn't on the stage when they beat the effigy and put the effigy on trial, he hasn't renounced it, or renounced the many other speakers that were there in Hamburg, or renounced the fact that they mocked the virus in Hamburg. I think on the virus too, I want to mention to you guys, go back to what I was saying in January about the virus. I mean, you don't need to be Dr. Fauci to understand that this was going to be a threat. I mean, we saw it coming. Anyone who was well-read or was paying attention realized this was going to be a problem. But even 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, he was on a stage with people that were mocking masks. I think Chris Jacobs has disqualified himself for office. And I know that many of you understand the contributions of the family over the last 100 years. But Chris doesn't get a free pass because of that. He has disgraced himself with his association with the Trump family and with his voting record and with his complete shift to this absurd QAnon type of politics. And so, even if I am not a perfect candidate, and I've proven myself to have pretty darn good judgment and to fight pretty hard when it's not easy to do so, I don't need you guys to compare me to George Washington. I need you to compare me to Chris Jacobs. And I need to say this. I need to take the opportunity to say this as well. You could be the tiebreaker. A lot of people listen to what you say, especially in Erie County. And I lost Erie County by a fraction in the special election. Despite being outspent overall, including the state party and the national party, probably 10-1, we lost by a fraction in Erie County because a lot of people still believe Chris Jacobs is the Chris Jacobs from 6 or 7 months ago, or 6 or 7 years ago, rather than the guy he is today. And so I guess my request is that you guys look at the totality of the circumstances and realize I am not running against Chris Jacobs from the school board. I am running against Chris Jacobs, who stood on that stage in Hamburg and refused to renounce it.
So let me go back to you've been running through two cycles. You've paid pretty close attention to what Congress has been doing.
Right.
What the Democrats have pushed would you have voted against?
What they have pushed that I vote against? Listen, I think off the top of my head, I can't say something I would have voted against. I think that I would have voted for a lot of the things they did put forward, including the HEROES Act and many of the other bills that are now just languishing there. But there are going to be times where I'm going to oppose the Democratic Party. And I think if you followed my political career and how independent I have been, you can see that's the case. Now, I don't want to do that. I'm going there to work with people, to work across the aisles and work with the people that I can believe in. People like Paul Tomko, who he and I share a lot of things that are regarding the climate change and the environment that we can work on together. But obviously, I'm someone who will vote independently.
So, suppose Democrats win it all, and the party keeps moving a bit to the left. Uh, Medicare for all. What do you think of that?
I support it. I support it because I lived in a single payer system. I support it because I can look at it does the propaganda regarding Medicare for all. Look, I am open to other ways of getting to universal coverage, but my ideal would be Medicare for all. And it doesn't mean that anyone who spends 5 minutes in Toronto realizes it doesn't mean the end of private insurance. If you look at the commercials they have, they're constantly selling private insurance. You can have supplemental insurance, but Medicare for all would be a baseline for all citizens. Can we get there overnight? I don't know. But I'm open to options to getting us there eventually, some form of universal coverage. Based on what I've seen and what a lot of think tanks have looked into, some type of single payer system is the most efficient. And this is not like some crazy idea, some socialist idea. It's an idea that's been put in place in places like Canada. So I am open to that. My priority is making sure every single American has coverage. And I think just like you saw with the Affordable Care Act, there was scare tactic after scare tactic. We were told over and over and over again how the Affordable Care Act is going to defund Americans' healthcare systems and how it's going to lead to death panels and everything else. Well, now it's one of the most popular things we have. Even the Republican establishment is afraid to attack it openly. So I believe that Medicare for all is something that we should consider. It's something I've supported in the past. And I think, I don't think people realize what people are going through. If you guys come with me to the hospital in Medina, it's shocking. If you come with me to the hospital in Warsaw, it's shocking how little care people have. This is the richest country in the world, maybe in the history of the world. And we can't figure out a way to cover every one of our citizens. So calling it too far to the left, I don't agree with that. I think what we have right now is extreme, where we have people literally dying because they have no care in the height of a pandemic.
You talked about how, sorry, Bob, did you want to get in?
No, go ahead, Ken, go ahead.
You talked about how taking difficult positions. You did, of course, support the Amazon project against a lot of community pushback. How is that affecting your candidacy now, or is it at all?
It's not. I wish it was, because I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the. Listen, you guys, I'm often labeled as a progressive candidate, but I am someone who is. I have far more business experience and success than Chris Jacobs does. I don't have as much money as he does, but I made his family hundreds of millions of dollars. And I made a lot of people a lot of money. And I understand more than anybody else how important those 3,000 to 6,000 jobs would have been for the people of Western New York. And look at what I did with that little platform I had on Grand Island. I had that tiny little platform. I was one Democrat on a board with 5 people. They hated me. As anybody who followed what was happening on Grand Island knows, they had no idea how I got elected. I should not have got elected on Grand Island. I won by 2 votes, and I said, look, I am going to lead to make a difference rather than lead to get elected. Now, I've been a professional salesman. I know what to say to make people want to like me. I mean, I'm good at that. But what I did instead is said, how am I going to lead to make an impact for my children and the people of Grand Island? And the projects we got done, from the solar energy projects that are right now paying for the sidewalks on the boulevard, to the land preservation, I preserved more land than anybody else on Grand Island, ever, even close, to the Scenic Woods project, to the West River Trail project, to the restoration of the hotel that a lot of establishment Democrats told me was a pipe dream. I went and recruited people, just like I did in my private practice, to come and invest in Grand Island. I wanted to restore that hotel. I promised people, if I don't get that hotel restored, I am never going to be in politics again. People laughed. They said, you're never going to get that hotel restored. I found an investor. He said, look, it's a waste of money. I'm not going to do it. And I said, what if we get you sewage? He's like, we can't afford it. The DEC says it needs a septic system. There's no way we can do it. I went to Erie County. They said, nope, we don't invest in hotels. Nope, we're not doing it. So I went to Huntress. Now, obviously, Bill Huntress and I do not see eye to eye on about 99% of the things. But I said, Bill, if you put sewer in here and get this guy to pay half, this land's going to be marketable. He's like, I've had it for 50 years. I don't believe you. I said, you watch. So I convinced them both to put money into that sewer line project. I found a sleeve underneath the thruway and connect to our pump station. I brought it forward to the board. They said, we don't want anything to do with it. We're not going to help you with it. We don't want to do it. Just like they did with the Welcome Center and everything else I did. So I got 2 private players to invest in that sewer line. As soon as that sewer line was complete, people started coming out of the woodwork. Amazon, Target, Walmart, all kinds of people were coming. A resort came to look at the island and say, look, we want to buy maybe Fantasy Island and put something over here as well. Obviously, Amazon was the best option. So I told Bill, listen, Bill, this is a no-brainer. We got to do it. When the town started, having lived on Grand Island for 4 years and been supervisor for 4 years, I realized there was going to be opposition. The people that have been there for generations. They didn't want any type of change. But I knew, having grown up in Western New York, what those thousands of jobs would mean for the trades unions, for the people in Niagara Falls that could work there, people in North Tonawanda, the people in Erie County. And so I fought for it. I think they blew it. And you can probably hear the passion in my voice. They blew it for a million reasons. You can blame the trades unions. Trust me, I talked to the trade unions. They wanted to protest the town hall. We had a protest planned for the week they scrapped the project. You can talk, there's a million excuses. The reality is, Western New York does not have that get it done attitude in leadership, from broadband or everything else. When I go to Washington, I will have that get it done attitude. No excuses, because that's how I lived for my entire adult life. From the time I was a community college student where I had 3 jobs and I had to get an A to go on to UB, to the time I was working for Samsung, to the time I was working here in Western New York, I know if you don't deliver, you get fired. All I'm asking for the people of Western New York is give me 2 years to go to Washington. I will fight for infrastructure. I will fight for broadband. I've already done it. And if I don't get it done, throw me out of office.
Just real quickly, we've got about 3 minutes left because we've got another candidate interview immediately after. So if anyone
Sure.
else wants to get in, this is your moment.
If I may, Nate, you have talked a lot about your opposition to the president here today. And so I think the perception is that this is the most Republican district in all of New York State. The polls that were taken a year ago show President Trump very popular in the 27th district. What do you sense out there? Do you think that the fact that Chris is not supporting him as with such a loud voice? I mean, do you think people are not there with him now?
Well, Chris is trying, like what he's doing is he was going 90 miles per hour and he's trying to pull a U-turn, which is not working. Even, like he was with Trump until like literally a week ago, but I noticed there's a change in tone over the last few days. Yes, we have the polling too. President Trump is about the same as President Biden, which is shocking because he won this district by 25 points. It's shocking because everybody sees the same thing we see, a fiasco. And people can be fooled for a little while, but they can't be fooled forever. Listen, when President Trump was elected, I was a town supervisor. And I said, look, I did not vote for him. I wish him success and luck. I said it publicly. You can go back and look at the tape. At the town board meeting. But there comes a time where you just say, this is nonsense. Yes, his popularity is sinking like a stone in NY27. And it is a Republican district. That's why I shocked the Republicans so much that I have so many people voting for me. I mean, look at the numbers. The numbers are crazy. I mean, I shouldn't even come close. But we do come close. And we are this close again. We have the polling. It's going to come down to turnout. And it's going to come down to Erie County. And it's going to come down to what the Buffalo News has to say to some extent. I hate to put the pressure on you, but it's a fact. I am not a career politician. You guys know I'm not as polished as other politicians. You know I make mistakes. I'm learning and I'm growing. And I'm going to continue to learn and grow as I go to Washington. But what I can tell you is I'm honest, I'm sincere, I never stole a pack of gum, and I am like the people of this region. And they know me. Has Chris Jacobs ever been to Albion? Has he ever been to Warsaw? I mean, has he ever been to half these towns? I go to more towns in this district in a week than he has ever. And these people know me, and they're going to vote for me again, and it's going to be neck and neck, and I think we're going to pull it out.
Nate, I hate to cut you off abruptly, but we do have another candidate ready to go, so we appreciate your time, and, sure we'll be talking to you again sometime.
It's an honor. I appreciate it. And I thank you for everything.
All right,
Thanks, Nick.
Take care.
Thank you.